Welcome to the Teens Army podcast, where we have the goal to help young Christians today to grow in their faith. In this episode, we'll talk about fear. I'm Chris, and I'm here with Hayden. How's it going?
It's going good. We had a long weekend with some school events and other stuff like that, like work. But I'm glad to be here, having a great
It's,
time.
yeah, it's funny. You always come back talking about the weekend and then your job, and then I'm just here thinking, when am I gonna get a job?
Uh, yeah, I'm pretty sure you. I don't know if pretty sure you've joked about working in an Amazon factory, which I think is one of the funniest jokes you made. All right.
What's so funny?
What do you mean? What's so funny? It's a factory. It's a factory. That's the joke, Christopher.
Are you
It,
trying to offend me?
no, no,
Are you
no,
trying to
no,
strike fear into
no,
me?
no, no. Speaking of
Ah,
speaking of fear,
speaking
so
of fear.
instead of doing a joke of the day section, we're doing a little bit differently today. It's more about a joke about me and Chris, so y'all get to laugh at us and we don't get to make horrible jokes. Because we're gonna be saying some of our most insane fears we either have now or had when we were kids. Probably we had when we were kids, because a lot of our friends listen to this podcast, so we don't really want to give away too much to them.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to start off or should I start off?
Sure. One I can think of specifically at the moment is I remember when I was little. I was like, how old was I? Like 7 or something? I don't know. I was really little. I just remember I was short, but I've always been short, so that's nothing important. But I was thinking about the concept of God, and I was thinking, who made God? And then it got me so scared that I started crying.
Dang.
Well, and then I remember hearing somewhat recently after that, not recently now, but recently after that, that someone said, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So I was like, phew, I'm fine. I'm going to be wise. But then I did finally get interested into apologetics, and I thought, oh, God had no beginning. He's infinite. We
hmm
only perceive him as having a beginning because our finite minds can only fully comprehend things with a beginning. And since God is an infinite being, then he would be an unmoved mover who has no beginning. So that's one of them that I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go ahead and give you another one. When I was really, not really young, I actually had this for a very long time. Basically, most of my entire life until age, I want to say 14, 15. I don't know. I was definitely afraid of like very large noises. So like fireworks and movie
Mm,
theaters. I would not go watch movies. I remember one instance where my entire family had got tickets to go watch Star Wars Rogue One, um, which is my favorite Star Wars movie now. And this is one of my biggest regrets of my life, but I would not go in the theater. Uh,
mm,
I actually, my dad had to stay out and not watch it, and he had to watch me, and I feel so bad talking about it to this day. I am
uh,
still afraid of fireworks, but not like to the extent I was then. It's more of the surprise of them now, the big boom. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I don't really like that. But
You wouldn't like living where I live.
oh yeah, I bet people go crazy on 4th of July there. All right, we can go ahead and move on to the
Yeah.
next thing.
Okay, so today, as you guessed, we're talking about fear. What is fear, besides being merely an emotion? According to the American Heritage Dictionary of English Language, 5th edition, period, fear is a very unpleasant or disturbing feeling caused by the presence or imminence of danger. It could also be a state of condition marked by this feeling or a feeling of disquiet or apprehension. Scripture, however, seems to use the word fear slightly differently than this form of fear. For example, the fear of the Lord is being seen as a good thing, whereas other fears
hmm
are not seen as a good thing in other instances. And I would say fear is this kind of fear, the fear that the dictionary is talking about, seems to be more of a worldly fear that comes as a result of the fall. I
hmm
would like to segue this into the transition of talking about Hayden's definition of fear. So he's going to go into more detail about
Yeah,
understanding fear and how it affects us. So over to you.
yeah. Thank you. I'll go ahead and give some examples of fear. Now, we listed a few fears beforehand, but I think I give more examples. One of the biggest ones, especially during the teenage
Mm,
years, is the fear of the future. Right? The future is pretty scary. For me, especially, it is scary. The idea of going out, to getting your own job that you would keep for a very long time. Like right now, most teenage jobs are like side hustles. I could not imagine doing
Mm,
my current job for my entire life, especially if I had a family to care for. Um, this fear of the future can lead to all sorts of feelings, and these are pretty normal feelings when it comes to being afraid of stuff, such as anxiety, fear, of course,
mhm.
depression, and procrastination. These effects are drastic, and during the time, you could try and do something else to take your mind off the fear, right? Another fear could be of the dark. This is a very, very common one. Whenever you are afraid of the dark, sorry, whether you're afraid of the dark or what could be in it, you could become very tense and not able to sleep at night. I would know. I've gone camping, and many creatures have rustled against the tent, and that is truly a scary feeling when the thing protecting you from a bear is a thin little piece of paper flapping in the wind against the bear. So it's a very scary feeling. Now from these two examples, we can draw some similarities in the situations. In both, there is something that you find disturbing or frightening, and this has drastic effects on you as a person, causing you to seek some way of distraction, some paradise. Listener, I'm going to tell you that nothing in this world can provide that feeling. Sure, music can help for a while, but that song has a limit. That activity has a limit. That movie can only hold your attention for so long before you're reminded of fear. There is only one answer of fear. We'll get back to that later. Chris, move it on to you.
That was really good, especially the mention of the fear of the future, because that fear is a very prominent one during the teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but also especially through other times of life, it is there, but it's the most noticeable, from what I've seen at least in the teenage years. So thank you for mentioning that.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to mention fear being used historically as a manipulation technique. I mean, throughout history, fear has been used to keep people in line. For example, look at dictatorship. Many dictators, for example, Stalin, he used fear to keep people in line. The
Mm-hmm.
fear of if you weren't a completely functional citizen who did everything right, they had the right to gulag you. At least they claim they had the right to gulag you. I would say that seems unjust. Along with Hitler, there was the concentration camps, which were
Mm-hmm.
very horrible and a very inhumane thing to do. You can see that this was a fear that was used um, historically in order to keep people from doing things that they whether it is something they shouldn't be doing or whether it's something that they don't want them to do. So yeah, fear
Mm-hmm.
can be used in many different places. These dictators used it as a form of detrimental fear. And now here's the thing about detrimental fear. It's a worldly fear. It's the
Mm-hmm.
feeling we feel when we feel a lack of faith or when we're in danger, for example. This fear is merely a temporary one. This is not a fear that is permanent. The second fear I would like to mention is a beneficial fear. This is a tricky fear that should be properly managed. For example, you fear putting a fork in the electric outlet because you know the consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You fear breaking the law because you know the consequences. That's a good thing. It puts a mental barrier in the mind to limit out the chances of us actually doing these things. However, if it becomes unproperly managed, this can quickly become a detrimental fear. The once healthy fear of being electrocuted can easily become a fear of using anything related to electricity. It may seem unfair for some that God has put us in this situation, but this is only what we should naturally expect if we live in a fallen world, which Genesis tells us. The final manifestation of fear is the fear of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
As Proverbs 1:7 states, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. Yes, you knew we were going to use that verse, didn't you? The fear of the Lord is seen as a wise thing. It's seen as wise to fear the Lord. And the fear of the Lord is what is key to managing both the other fears and the other forms of fear, as we will mention later on.
Yeah, yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. Um, so now back onto my cliffhanger question. What is the answer to fear? Well, to answer that question, we must go into the Word of God. A few verses on fear include Isaiah 41:10 First John 4:18 and Proverbs 29, verse 25.
Hmm.
The first verse is Isaiah 41:10, which, it's always, nice for you to pause and open your own Bibles and turn there. But if you don't want to, that's okay. I'm gonna read it for you. So, and it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." So, some context. This was written during the time of the prophets. Israel had fallen from God, so he sent the prophets to come and talk about his kingdom.
Hmm.
Well, this received a very large amount of persecution and hate, and the people only grew more wicked.
Hmm.
God promised, though, that he would still save the righteous, the wicked would perish. In this verse, God is telling the righteous of Israel not to worry, for he is with them, and he will bring judgment upon the wicked to protect the righteous. The next verse is First John 4:18. Let's see if I can turn there quickly. I don't know why I put it in this order, but it's fine. We can turn there. Where is it? Oh no. This is embarrassing. Okay, there we go. Technical difficulties here. There is 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love.
Hmm.
Now, I don't necessarily know the context in which First John was written, but I do know the verse context, this chapter. In this section of First John, John is telling us how God is love. Um, in this verse in particular, he talks about how there is no fear in love because it casts it out. And if we have fear, we are not perfected in love.
Hmm.
This is a beautiful example of trusting in God, which we'll touch on later. All right. And then finally, last verse is Proverbs 29:25. Once again, I did this in a horrible order, so you have to hear me scroll through the Bible. It's not a bad thing,
At
but
least it's a real Bible.
yeah, yeah. At least I'm not using ESV.org at the moment, but I always like my old paperback.
Yeah.
Uh,
The Pew Bible.
should we talk about that right now? That's actually a good mention of it. Hold up.
Yeah, you stole it
So
from the pews.
no, no, I did not steal it from this. So during our biblical foundations class, uh we were told to turn somewhere, and I said if you're using a Pew Bible, that will be blah 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 blah. Because my pastor used to say that. He used to be like, if you're using a Pew Bible, you can find it on so and so page. And I just got that because my Bible is has the same amount of pages as the Pew Bibles. So I would always turn there and be like, holy moly, that's the number. And so I don't, so whenever we do that, I joke around and say, if you're using a Pew Bible, you can find that on page. For this verse, it's 550 for me. So yeah, but it's a funny, we can I can talk about that in a different episode into more depth, but
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
it's a whole nother thing. Anyway, we got off topic there,
yeah.
but it's fine.
Don't steal.
Yeah, don't do not steal from Pew Bibles, especially ask your pastor beforehand. I'm pretty sure he'd be happy to give you a Bible.
Hmm.
Now, Proverbs 29:25 says, "The fear of man lays a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is safe." Context: Proverbs is a book of wisdom. It is written to be like
Hmm.
a father talking to his son, giving him advice about life. Now, this verse is what I've been leading up to this entire time. Trust in God. That is the answer. That is the only thing that will last. The only thing that will help you get through your fears. Trusting in God.
Hmm.
Now, once again, I do the cliffhanger because we always gotta get back to Chris, man. We can't leave Chris hanging, okay? Chris, it's back to you.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Imagine this.
Hmm.
The year is 64 AD. A great fire had just broken out. And Emperor Nero of Rome, who is speculated to be responsible for the fire, blamed it on the Christians. And many Christians were murdered and killed by dogs by the hand of Nero. This is just one example of many Christian persecutions. Let's not forget the number of persecutions that Christians have faced. And then again, please forgive my pronunciation. I'm merely an American. The persecution under Domitian from AD 81 to 96. The persecution under Trajan from 98 to 117. The persecution under Marcus Aurelius from 161 to 180. The persecution under Septimus Severus from 193 to 211. persecution under Maximus the Thracian, whatever that is, 235 to 238. The persecution under Decius from 249 to 251. The persecution under Valerian from 253 to 260. The persecution under Aurelian from 270 to 275. The persecution under Diocletian from 284 to 305. And Galerius from 305 to 311. And despite all these
Mm,
instances of persecution, you would expect nothing but fear and chaos. In the midst of this, we see some of the bravest moments of all Christianity in these times of persecution. Why is it?
mm,
Why is it that the ones who should have the most fear have shown us the most bravery? It is here where I believe it's important we should note. Bravery is not merely the lack of fear, but the will to confront it. 2 Timothy 1:7. For he hath given us not the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. The Christian should have a different view of fear. Fallen fear is an ally of death, and death is an enemy who will be defeated. Do you fear the punishment we deserve? Do you fear the pains of death? Are you afraid of your sin? Look to Christ and to his sacrifice on the cross. And I'll close with a verse. I'm going to close with Psalm 31. Anyway, Psalm 31:24. Be strong and let your heart be courageous, all you who hope in the Lord. With
mm.
that, I'll hand the mic over to Hayden. I can't hand it
Yeah,
over. This is through a screen.
yeah, yeah. No, this is it's kind of impossible to hand the mic through the screen, but eventually someone will invent a portal or whatever. I
Hmm.
don't know. I've seen too many movies. Okay. Anyway, now here's what it's all been leading up to: the end of almost every episode. Hayden's apply it to me
Mm.
section. Yeah.
Ooh, let's
Whatever.
go.
Okay. Now, the teenage years are seen as some of the most hard years in life. Sure, the years after college are very hard and challenging, but the development, emotions, experiences, and decisions you make during your teenage years cause a change in you as a person, and shifts your life afterwards. Now, I am saying this from very personal experience, listener. I have learned much in my teenage years. Some of my fondest and worst memories are from these years, and this molds me into who I am now. I've grown in my walk with God over my teenage years. And fun fact, this podcast helped massively with that.
Mm.
Now, what is my point with all this? Is that you will go through hard times, listener. Whether you're one of our young listeners or you're older, whether you're going through a hard time or not, God is with you. He's always with you. Through the thick and thin, He is there for you. So, listener, I call you to put your trust on Him. Now, I know it can be hard. Even I cannot fully put my trust in God. When I'm afraid, I seek a worldly distraction, like all of you. But it is temporary, and God is not.
Mm.
This is not an easy thing to do, listener. But trust me, it will help you severely later down the line. If you've been praying and going through the scripture during these hard times, then later on in life, when you go through these, hard times looking for jobs, hard times with friends, and college experiences, you already know to trust in God. When you're afraid and facing persecution from the world, you know that you're not alone. God is with you, listener. And do not expect to have a better life after those times, because the world will hate us. It will rise against us. Chris told us years upon years of Christian persecution, and it's not going to end. The world will always hate us. But even in those bad times, God is at work. He is always working for good. If you are afraid of the dark, God is the light. If you are afraid you will not find friends in a new school, God is with you and will give you the courage to continue. If you are afraid of public speaking, know that God has the power to strengthen. And if you are afraid of the future, know that our future is secured in heaven if we believe in Him. Listener, trust in God in those hard times. And remember, He is always working and always present.
Mm.
That's all I have to say. Do you want to add anything to that, Chris?
If there was one thing I would add, it would be something that we have to look forward to. The day when there's no more pain and no more
Mm-hmm.
suffering. The day when
Mm-hmm.
we will worship in eternity to the God who deserves our worship, and we will be filled with a desire. Some people say, "Well, I don't know. I don't want to go to heaven and then be singing for the rest of my life. That's not what I want to do for eternity." But I feel like people see themselves in a worldly situation in heaven. They don't realize that their desires will be made new. They will not have the desire that they once
Mm-hmm.
had to sin. They will have the desire to worship
Mm-hmm.
God. And I think that's something we can look forward to.
Yeah. Thank you for making it this far. I know it's sometimes it can be a little bit of a rant, but we're trying this new, little bit, more enclosed type of episodes, and we hope like them. Short, sweet, and informational. That's the motto. No, it's not true, but whatever.
We have a new motto
Anyway,
every
thank you for
episode.
listening. I know we do have a new motto for every episode. Be sure to share the show with others. If people are struggling with this, you can always share the episode, or as I always say, it's better for you to take the stuff from this episode and learn more from it and talk to other people about it and help them with that.
Mhm.
Um, be sure to support the show, of course, as I always say, local church first. Be sure to check out Solocast if you're a bit older. They have really strong, long episodes on theology and many other topics. It's wonderful. If you want to get into evangelism or just want to know a little bit more about evangelism, Hearts for the Lost, wonderful podcast. Talk about evangelism. If you're a regular on here, you know the routine.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now we get to say the
Oh, the
thing.
thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shield of Faith. Shields
Shields
up.
up.
No, I don't know. I think mine was a delayed on the meeting. I don't know. Maybe it'll sound good in editing. Who knows? It always sounds good in editing.
Yeah.
Uh,
As long as I remember to edit it.
yeah. I'm turning in my Pew Bible to find a verse, but I don't think I'll find it in time. Nope, nope. I'm not gonna find it in time. Oof.